So today I'm doing another challenge. The last challenge I did was reading the lowest rated books on my TBR, and that wasn't as successful as I thought it would be. I finished the challenge, but I didn't find any hidden gems from that video. So I thought today I would do a challenge that's a little more positive. So I'm going to be reading some of my 5-star prediction books. So at the beginning of the year, I did a whole video on several books that I think I would give 5 stars. And here are the books I'm going to be reading for this challenge. So the first one will be Dry by Neil Shusterman and Jared Shusterman, or Shusterman, I don't know how you pronounce it. So this one follows a apocalyptic type dystopian world where humanity runs out of water. And I know that this sounds very, there's my puppy dog. I know this sounds very not ideal for the time we are living in, but I have been wanting to read it forever. It just became available to me on the Libby app as an audiobook. So I want to start this and give it a try because I love the Scythe series so much. So I figure if I love Scythe as much as I did, maybe I'll also like Neil Shusterman's other book. So we'll give this a try. The second book I'll be reading is Sleeping Giants by Sylvain Neuvel. This follows a couple different perspectives from what I understand, but the main perspective is a girl who, as a young kid, accidentally falls into this huge, like, robotic metal hand. And from that moment forward, she is determined to become a scientist and figure out where this hand came from, find the other pieces of this maybe like buried robot. So this sounds really, really intriguing, and I've been loving the sci-fi reads that I've been picking up recently. So if this is anything like those other sci-fi novels that I've been loving, then I think I'm gonna love this one as well. Hey guys! My puppies are joining us. And then the third and final read is going to be Miracle Creek by Angie Kim. This one I've heard really, really great things about. It made a lot of people's top books of last year list. So this one definitely has me very intrigued. It just sounds like a hard-hitting like thriller / contemporary novel that I would just love. I believe it follows all these different people who were involved in this accident where a lab like blew up and 2 people were killed. So there's one woman who's on trial for the murder of these 2 people and is being blamed as the one who purposely started this fire that caused these deaths. But then there's all these other people who are being called to the stand to testify and share their side of the events that happened that night of the explosion. And it follows this whole court trial case, and it just sounds so good. So definitely very excited for this one as well. So those are the 3 books I'm going to be reading for this challenge. Hopefully at least one of them will be a 5-star, if not all of them. So I'll definitely share my updates with you guys as I have them. Let's get started. Okay, so as I mentioned, I was going to be starting with Dry by Neil Shusterman, and so far I am about 100 pages into the audiobook version of this book, and I'm not loving it as much as I thought I would. There are a couple of scenes that really, really resonated with me because of what's happening right now. Like there's this whole grocery store scene, and wow, is it so like what we're experiencing right now. It's really strange. But other than that, I feel like the characters that we're following, I wish we were following like older characters. I know this is a young adult novel, so it's going to be targeted towards teens, and nothing wrong with that. But I just wish that it was written with a little bit more mature of characters. I feel like the dialogue at times comes off as a little bit immature, which is completely understandable because these are teenagers chatting with each other. So obviously I'm going to think it's a little more young in tone. But then there are like these really dark scenes that are a little more mature in tone. So it's a little all over the place with like what tone it's going for. And then the other thing is we're following several different perspectives, and I don't know that that's totally necessary, because then every like couple chapters will get these like breaks in the story to explore news flash from another part of the world, just this random like 1 or 2 page news flash that just helps us like understand how this would truly impact the world as a whole, instead of just the lives of these couple characters. And while I see the appeal in that format and that choice to kind of interrupt the story to bring you these news flashes, it does pull me out of the story and the narrative that we're following, and then I have trouble getting back into it. So I think that the execution of this novel so far just isn't totally for me, and I'm not loving like any of the characters. So I'm hoping it gets a little bit better as we get on, but so far I don't know that this will be 5 stars for me. This is a little different than I was expecting, so we'll see. So I am now 250 pages into Dry, and you know what it reminds me of, strangely enough, is The Darkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken. I don't know why. It's like, well, I know why. It's because they're both young dystopian novels, and they follow this like ragtag team of teens that feel like they're all alone in the world and everybody's out to get them. And I think the only big difference between Dry and The Darkest Minds is like the kids don't have powers in Dry. But it is very similar, where I feel like the characters are similar in like their maturity, and the relationships between the characters are similar, where they're all like suspicious of each other but have to trust each other and come together to survive. And it's funny that it reminds me of that book. And unfortunately, I wasn't a huge fan of The Darkest Minds, so I'm not loving the direction of Dry and the direction the plot is going. I think it's really interesting exploring this idea of what would happen if humanity ran out of water. It's interesting to explore themes of like the worst enemy is like us, like we are our own worst enemy in some ways. But I just don't love the execution of the novel. I don't really like any of the characters a whole lot, and I don't know, the plot is just kind of like it's now feeling a little bit drawn out. So in some respects I can see the appeal of this novel, but I just don't think it's my cup of tea. So I am going to finish it, but it's definitely not going to be a 5-star, unfortunately. So we'll see what I think when I finish it, and I will keep you guys updated. I finished Dry, and not a huge fan. It wasn't bad by any means, but I think it was just what I was talking about before, where it wasn't what I wanted from the story. It went in a direction that I wasn't crazy about. I didn't love the whole ragtag group of teen characters that we were following and their dynamics with each other. The characters in general fell flat for me. I just wasn't crazy about the execution of the novel, and I did feel like it dragged out for a little too long, where it feels like they ran out of plot. And I like the themes of it. I like the overall message of it. I just thought the execution was lacking. And I do think a lot of people will love this novel, so I definitely don't want to dissuade you from reading it, because I think it was just a personal taste thing. I think a lot of people are going to get a lot out of this novel, so definitely give it a shot. But for me, it was a 3-star read. Not bad. It really wasn't bad at all. I liked a lot of parts of it, and I liked the overall message, and how it ended I thought was very hopeful, which was nice to read in this climate. So I thought it was good in that regard. It just wasn't perfect. So definitely check it out, especially if you like the Scythe series. It does read a little bit younger than the Scythe series, I will admit. But yeah, so I am now going to start Sleeping Giants, because that audiobook just became available to me. So I'm really hoping that this one is a 5-star read, because it would be really a shame if I did this whole challenge and didn't find one 5-star read out of it. That is really a sign that I do not know my own tastes in books. So crossing my fingers that I'm gonna love Sleeping Giants, and I'll keep you guys updated. So I am now about 100 pages into the Sleeping Giants audiobook, at least, and I am loving this audiobook. So the book is actually told in an interview format, so that it makes it feel like it's like a documentary almost. And I'm loving the audiobook version, especially of this book, because I think if I were physically reading it, I would still really enjoy it, and the story and the characters and their sass, but listening to their voices and hearing the cast of characters really make these characters come to life, it's so much fun. I highly recommend, if you are interested in starting this series and reading this book, check out if you can get the audiobook for a good deal, because it is so worth it. It's so much fun. So I'm really excited about this one. I'm really liking the direction of the story. I think that the main narrator guy is really a fascinating character. I'm really liking him. He's such a mystery to me. So I'm going to continue on and keep you guys updated, but I'm loving this so far. I am almost done with Sleeping Giants. I have like 100 pages left to go, and I am so obsessed. I love this story so much. I love the politics in it. I love all the sci-fi elements and the mystery and the intrigue and the characters. The main character, who's like kind of running the show, I love his kind of character where you always feel like he's a step ahead of the rest. And it like reminds me of like Sherlock Holmes almost, where they've always got like a secret plan that the reader isn't totally aware of, and then it's slowly revealed and you're like, oh my god, that was brilliant. So I just love that kind of character. I love that kind of trope. I don't know what trope that would be considered, but I've read like a couple characters like that where they always feel like they're a step ahead. You're always just trying to like keep up with them, and they're just so smart, and you just love the reveals that come with that character. So I'm a huge fan of this. I totally recommend the audiobook. Granted, I haven't tried like physically reading it, so I'm sure it's still very good if you physically read it, but the cast for the audiobook is so good. So I hope that this ends up being 5 stars. I hope the ending just blows me away, but I am really happy that I'm reading this one. I finished Sleeping Giants, and oh my god, that ending was incredible. I loved it. I loved it. I definitely am giving this one 5 out of 5 stars. So good. I love the format. I love the characters. I love the story. I love the twists. I love everything about it. I'm so excited to continue on with the series. I have already bought the next 2 immediately upon finishing Sleeping Giants. I have to get these next 2 books. So I'm so happy that I loved it as much as I did. Good news now, I have Miracle Creek available on Libby, so I am going to start listening to Miracle Creek today and hopefully finish it. It's not a very long audiobook, so maybe I could finish it today or tomorrow, so we will see. But oh my god, so happy. I love Sleeping Giants. It was so good. I think I'm really into sci-fi. Like, I've been loving the sci-fi books I've been picking up recently, and it just makes me want to pick up way more. So if you have any recommendations that are similar to Sleeping Giants that you think I would like, definitely leave some comments down below, because I'm going to start looking for more sci-fi books for sure. I am now about 100 pages into Miracle Creek, and it is so gripping. My favorite scenes by far are the scenes where we're actually in the court and listening to the trial and the lawyers go back and forth and the testimonies. Oh my goodness, those scenes are some of the most gripping scenes I've ever read. They're so fascinating. So I'm really enjoying that part of it. That being said, it definitely reminds me a lot of the characters that are in authors like Celeste Ng, her books have very flawed, real characters, and it reminds me a lot of the characters that are in Miracle Creek. They're very flawed. You don't really like any of them because they just are so flawed and so human, and you just kind of follow their journeys of them figuring out what they believe in and who they are, and it's just really fascinating. And you know, it's hard because I love great gripping characters, and it's hard reading about characters that you know are so well done and so complex, and you don't feel like you can root for them because they're just not likable, but they're still good characters, if that makes sense. So it's like there's a difference between liking someone as a person and liking them as a character. I like all of these characters a lot, but I don't like any of them really as like people, if that makes sense. So it's a really good book so far, and I'm really enjoying my time reading it. I don't know if it's going to be a new favorite yet. We'll see how it all plays out. But so far, those court trial scenes, I mean, if the book was just the trial, it would be like the best book ever. I would be so into it. The scenes where we are just developing the characters are good, but they're just not quite as gripping as those trial scenes. So I'll keep you all updated, but I am really enjoying it so far. Hey, buddy. I did not do as good of a job updating you all with Miracle Creek, but I did finish it, and wow, it was really good. It had me guessing until the end. You definitely feel like it can be any character who is kind of at the center of this story, and I'm don't want to say too much because I don't want to give anything away, but I overall really enjoyed it. I did like the character development that we got from a lot of the characters. The characters, I would say, are not likable, but they are really good characters. It's hard because with those kinds of books, I so appreciate the character work that was done and how gripping a lot of this book was. It just wasn't a new favorite for me. I really feel like with those character-focused books, if I don't love the characters, it's really hard for me to love the story, even if I totally appreciate the characters. So for this one, I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I would highly recommend this one. It's not a thriller. I would say it's definitely more just a mystery contemporary with a really intriguing trial going on throughout the entire book that you get to be in on as a reader. And I would say if you love character-focused books, this is a good one. Just don't expect like the most likable characters, but go in expecting very good character work. So overall, I'm happy I read it for sure. I can see why so many people were hyping it up. It's so good. Definitely recommend. So that wraps up this challenge. Let's do a quick summary of everything that we went over. So in summary, I read Dry by Neil Shusterman, gave this 3 stars. Overall, I liked the message. I liked the idea behind it. I didn't love the execution or the characters. And then I read Sleeping Giants, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars. I loved this. I loved the characters. I loved the format. I love the mystery and all of the twists. I just loved it in the ending. Oh my god. So definitely excited for the rest of the series. And then the last, but certainly not least, the last book I read was Miracle Creek by Angie Kim, and I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I loved the court trial scenes. The character work was superb in this. It just isn't a new favorite. I didn't love any of the characters as human beings, so it was hard to sympathize and get behind any of them, but overall I thought this was a really, really great book and would highly recommend to anyone looking for a hard-hitting mystery, contemporary, thriller type book because it's definitely got a lot of intrigue. So those are the 3 books that I read for this challenge. Overall, I would say this was a success. I found a 5-star and I kind of know my reading taste, maybe a little bit. But thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hoped it was semi-interesting. If you liked it, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe. I release new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And until next time.